I didn't want to cover this as originally, as this is drama content, it isn't relevant for long, and lots of people have already covered it, and there's lots of negativity around the whole issue. I don't like to promote that or further that, but every content creator brings their own opinion, and I wanted to summarize everything I could in the most concise way possible. I'm not here to drag out a video. Along with that, I wanted to bring some clarity and help people understand everything that's going on to the best of my knowledge. Many times in this video, I'll talk about the community, and no, I do not mean everyone, but I mean a large number of fans that are enough to be a vocal minority and make a difference. So before we even get into the anniversary rules, I need to preface this with some info on character releases. I think this really started back in 1.1 with the release of Zhongli, and the first time miHoYo has responded to a massive fan complaint. During Zhongli's release, there was a lot of anger against the company, as not only at the time was Shield's weak and the Geo element weak, but he was weak as a character. While an update as well and Geo had most likely been in the works for a while, this is the first big complaint that miHoYo turned around and buffed Zhongli with, along with Geo excelling him to still one of the strongest and most utilized units in the game, and rivaled in bringing defense to a team. Since then though, there have been many characters where fans complained, rightfully and wrongfully. Around Kazuha's release, many slated him as a second Sucrose, but they quickly realized the functionality of his skills were different from the initial perception. Just now he's been the second most used character in the Abyss, bringing insane support and elemental buffs. Though there's also been many characters that they claim were weaker for the rest, and rightfully so. Yoimiya was released to much apprehension, with many players complaining about her damage and kit function, and while she can complete a lot of gameplay, many players, knowing that she wasn't going to be a top damage dealer, discarded her before rolling. Because a lot of the information was from leaks, I think the lowest success release was definitely a prompt for miHoYo to start hunting down leakers. The following release was Raiden, another source of controversy, one Chinese player even desiring to take miHoYo to court over false advertising. In the beta there was a change to Raiden to make her incompatible with Beidou, though the skill description stayed the same. This potentially powerful duo became the only exception to her functionality, breaking the rules of the skill. To remedy this, I think around a day later they fixed up the skill description, gave every player 100 primogems, which is certainly a confusing way to respond. The last straw was the release of Kokomi, a character who can't crit, and flat numbers were not enough to give her the damage comparable to other characters at the peak of gameplay, especially being a healer, which is a less competitive role. This was a particularly bad case, as not only has she received the lowest sales on day one of any character yet, but beyond that, fans took to her voice actor's livestream, began venting at the voice actor, causing chat to have to be locked into emo only mode to quell the anger. Now we can get into the meat of things, starting from the 2.1 livestream on the 20th of August, where players knew that on the date of the anniversary, they were going to get an event, the Passage of Clouds and Stars, that gave them 10 free wishes. And while this was never stated to be related to the Genshin anniversary, it hasn't lined up with a patch or any updates, so this led me to believe that this is directly related to the anniversary. The other event that coincided with this was the Moonlight Merriment, which gave a bunch of primogems and other rewards. I don't know if people forgot about those rewards, but as the 20th of September, the day of the anniversary, approached, there were no more official announcements. This wasn't until we got a bombshell on the 1-year anniversary community event rewards. While this didn't exactly state that it was the entirety of the rewards, this was the only news we got about the anniversary, and boy were people outraged. Not only was there a bunch of memes about it, but people really took notice of the gacha in the Messages in Time web event, where you had a chance to win Samara or Welcome Rune, along with the rest of the contest events. There was also 100 primogems from an Unforgettable Journey web event, but I still think they rightfully descended upon miHoYo for the rewards given to the artists and cosplayers for their contributions. As a little bit of context, when you submit art to these competitions, you give up, well, all legal standing when it comes to miHoYo using this art for their purposes. By taking part in the competition, they're able to use the art for whatever promotional purposes they desire, without any payment or recompense, including not needing to give credit to the original artist. Getting back to it though, a thorough cosplay can cost hundreds of dollars in materials and time. The same applies to art. miHoYo were giving the winners, what? 3 iPhones for the art? For the cosplay contest, the most expensive gift was a pair of Apple AirPods, and very few runner-up prizes. Considering the Genshin community has tens of thousands of artists that contribute to it, I would kindly advise none of them to take part in these contests. Since then, the comments and submissions became very much memes. After this, it seems like a lot of members of the community almost forgot about the original event, focused on the meme of these anniversary rewards being gapped themselves. Some of it was in a joking way, but it was very much the start of a slippery slope. We heard nothing else until, well, the anniversary itself. Well, apart from the Barbara and Amber video, which was sweet, but nothing else to hype it up, and it was for a reason. On top of this, there were a number of fake or fan-made reward videos and images, showing everything from free characters to tens of thousands of primogems. And whilst these were fairly obviously not true, I honestly believe it altered people's perceptions and made them expect a lot more. During this period, that slowly built up this massive feeling of anxiety and hostility towards the rewards, from free players expecting more and wanting more from the company, to whales arguing they spent all this money with the hope hope of getting something back. miHoYo is a billion-dollar company, and because of its fans, and they claimed it was the least they could do. Some based off the 100 primogems, some off the 10 wishes, but in both cases there was a lot of disappointment. To further this, many content creators not only highlighted the state of displeasure in the community, but shared their own disappointment, or simply stating that they thought miHoYo disrespected their community and that this was unacceptable in more unpleasant words. And while criticism is important, a lot of this definitely added to the fuel of the continually growing fire, made people more aware, hell, influenced people to follow their aggression against the company. Some people in the community even complaining, commenting, threatening to quit the game unless something changed. Before we go any further, I want to do a little comparison between miHoYo and other gacha game anniversary rewards. Let's take it at face value and say that miHoYo is giving us the rewards based upon the login and the web event. This gives a total of 10 wishes and 100 primogems. Let's generously include the other resources and equate it to 11 wishes for ease. I'll be fair and compare this with the first anniversary of some games. I've done my best to translate it into terms of Genshin, so for Arknights you get 24 rolls, 700 primogems, an outfit and a variety of other resources from furniture to Mara, essential materials, living materials, but not an excessive amount. For Fate Go, they got a variety of resources but only 10 rolls. Then again, this game is very, let's say it's no pity system and you have to spend money to get a character to get past a certain point. I'm not a Go player, so feel free to correct me on any of that. Lastly, and most significantly, Honkai. And while I couldn't really determine the first anniversary rewards for Honkai, as for things like the number of rolls, apparently I'd have to ask a veteran captain, someone helped me determine the important thing, which is that the rewards we're getting in Genshin are better than the rewards back then. A couple of notes, I would love to look at Cookie Run, but they released in 2021, so there's no anniversary to compare it to. Secondly, that Genshin has had phenomenal success, currently being the highest grossing gacha game, and while I'm making this comparison on age, if I were to make it on monetary income, I expect the outcome would be entirely different. So I think the outcome of this comparison is that while Genshin gave us an appropriate rewards for the first year of anniversary of a gacha game, they probably didn't do this for a company of their size. Let me say this, in future anniversary, let's hope the rewards line up with the expected ones, as in other games they just get better and better. So going back to after the rewards started and nothing more was announced, what happened next? Well, people were angry and the mob mentality broke out. Hopium quickly turned into copium and people were going insane, inhaling too much. It started with venting in comment sections even before the day, with memes, jokes, insults, quickly deteriorated into straight complaining in the obvious places. You'll have forums, Discord, Reddit, and due to the ever-increasing severity with no solution, administrators quickly started acting in probably the most logical solution, deleting threads, locking replies, essentially muting people to stop the chaos from going any further. Well, as I said, it seems like a logical solution to put a fire out. All it did was push this fire somewhere else. Now that Flame would head to Google Play, ratings dropped from 4.7 to 1.9 in a day. Discord is stuck in slow mode and people are still posting Chi-Chi lying down to find somewhere to express their displeasure. People even started going to other gacha games and downvoting them, especially things like Honkai, hoping to grab the attention of the developer. So among all this chaos, maybe to quell the problems, Genshin on the following day released a reward hitting Asia first, including a new pair of wings and 400 primogems, thanking fans, stating its relation to the concert, with an addendum this was part 1 of 4. While this was thankfully the first real piece of communication we'd heard from miHoYo about the anniversary since the video, this wasn't even on the anniversary. The wings had previously been mentioned in patch notes as being part of a purchasable bundle known as the Boundless Symphony, related to the concert event. And while we won't know for sure if these were intended as a gift or not, we can see that when comparing Barbara's outfit, it says that it will be given out and become purchasable at a later time. Do you think they were given out as a response to the uproar or always planned? Alongside, Twitter became another battleground as suddenly many custom hashtags featuring icons of Genshin characters became apparent. Now this seems like a nice feature. A quick Google mentioned that the price of a custom hashtag can be upwards of $1 million, and let's just say people weren't too pleased. Lastly, within the past day, probably due to some unrest and continued emotions within the community, there was a video posted of content creator Tectone, who's probably the biggest Genshin entertainer, receiving a whole bunch of primogems from the creator program. While it's publicly available knowledge, a lot of players saw and were enraged at content creators seeing how much Genshin gave them while it gave the standard player such measly rewards. Now finally, let me take a moment to summarize everything, put together what the problem was and what needs to change. Firstly, let's start off with miHoYo's communication breaking down. Much like many companies, Blizzard, Riot, we've seen it over and over in the past, game makers stopped talking and addressing the fans' concern, turning from a personable, helpful team to a stone-cold megacorp. They set a precedent with Zhongli, showing that the best way to get change was to complain, and this continues to this day with the anniversary rewards. Once upon a time, we had a roadmap, a plan of what was to come, even Genshin Twitter account making jokes like drip marketing. As mentioned, it becomes last-minute changes, weaker characters, and lastly, radio silence. We see this about the promised KFC glider, the Nintendo Switch, and so many other things I hope miHoYo takes time to address. If only we had Jeff from the Genshin team to explain things. But going back to address rest of the characters, I would like to say we haven't had much power creep in the recent characters versus the crazy damage dealers we got in Liyue. I appreciate Genshin trying to make characters with more niche roles, even if they're weaker. Characters can still be part of teams that clear the abyss and keep the original characters relevant. I prefer niche kits over overpowered characters that make the original characters feel less significant. Okay, getting back into things, I think some responsibility lies with the mentioned at the start vocal minority of the Genshin community. From content creators spreading their disappointment, I know many of them did it honestly, emotions being the same as the fans. Criticism is fair and needed, but certainly those who jumped on a bandwagon, and most of all, those who really said miHoYo didn't care about them and encouraged fans irresponsibly. On top of this, some fans themselves, I understand that there should be an outlet, that many people were silenced, but is the most mature way to get a game to notice you to threaten to quit playing? If you're not enjoying the game, you can stop playing. Then again, a player that complains and keeps playing is only one that desires for their game's improvement. But to review bomb a game over one reward that was never promised, I feel that Genshin is more than anniversary rewards. I understand that people felt they deserved them. Everybody put a lot of effort into the game. They love their characters and the community and the friends that came with it. But remember, we didn't buy characters out of charity because we thought the developer needed it. We played the game because it was fun, because it was a well-made game, because the characters, the world, the gameplay. Can you remember that one time in Genshin that you thought was amazing and thrilling? I hope so. Lastly, attacking content creators, voice actors, even artists who made art just for Genshin characters that's not even used is not a way to get a company to change their game. It's a way to break apart a wonderful community. So let's say a lot is down to mob mentality, bubbles of people venting their frustrations. Let's hope that next time both us and miHoYo can do a better job going forward. Overall, we're kind of disappointed in miHoYo with the reactions, even parts of the community, but most of all, it had to come to this point really for something to happen. Let's just hope that next time it happens in a healthier way, where miHoYo is trying to understand their fans and player base. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Good luck out there, traveler.